This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Sven Demmel is 3 for 3 and makes his presence known on the points charts. But in the same 3 races that Demmel has won, Sadro has yet to miss the podium. It's a test of strengths, one driver's raw speed versus the other's sheer consistency. Laguna Seca will certainly test both due to its punishing nature. Difficult corners that leave a driver's race ended in a flash will mean all of our championship contenders will need to be on their toes. We'll see if anyone can break Demmel's winning streak as we get ready to watch round 7 of the Weekend Warriors, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Adam Young. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Adam, Laguna Seca is probably familiar to just about every iRacing member, but for our viewers, enlighten us on this California track.
Well, it's easier to tell you what doesn't or hasn't raced at Laguna Seca before in the past, that being pretty much anything NASCAR, because, well, I mean, stock cars probably wouldn't be a good fit here anyway, but sports car racing, IndyCar, the old kart series, everything has taken its turn on the 11-turn layout here at Laguna Seca. And of course, I keep on trying to say WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca, used to be Mazda Raceway. Yeah, well, you get the idea, but located in Monterey, California. Interesting fact I didn't know until a little while ago, Joe. This is actually built around an old lake bed. So probably part of the reason why it's so dusty. And you'll see all the dust on the track as we go over and take a lap around the GSRC SRF.
All right, we've got Amjad Yaman in the GSRC SRF, so let's do a lap around Laguna Seca. Up and over turn 1, this is easily flat out, but the important thing will be to line yourself up for Andretti. This is easily the best place for a pass on the circuit, but with the downhill braking, it'll be easy to come in too hot. You'll just double apex this corner and then switch sides for 3. The deceptive thing about this turn is it tightens up a bit on the exit. With the understeer that the SRF suffers, you'll probably see a few drivers clatter over the dirt. Then there's 4, which needs a big lift to make it through. But be sure not to hit those big red sausage curbs at the apexes because the spec racer will not like them. Back across the track once again, and then you've got a short break before 5. Sometimes you can sneak passes into here, but the compression and the banking of this turn make it much faster than you'd expect. And because it's such a steep climb on the exit, it'll be important to back up the corner and carry your speed off of it. Then there's the notorious turn 6. You've got to thread the needle to get the most out of this bend, and the lift throttle oversteer of the SRF makes it even more precarious. Now we're climbing up the Rahal Straight, which leads into the corkscrew. The entry here is super blind, but it requires you to cut across the track and brake right as the car is unsettled. Then it's a matter of making sure you don't cut the course with how difficult it is to see the edges of the track. As we continue to plunge downhill, rating curve will require you to balance the car on the throttle. Make sure and hit a very late apex, and then immediately swing the car to the left side of the track. Turn 10 is another one where there's a lot of banking to help you carry your speed. The next thing you know, the final hairpin is really the only other place that offers a good chance to overtake. Try not to hesitate on the power because you'll need the speed down the front stretch to keep yourself safe from attack back into Andretti. But hopefully, you've now finished a lap around Laguna Seca.
You see around the iconic hills of Laguna Seca Raceway. Now, the Weekend Warriors are brought to you by the Hallett Race Shop. Hallett Race Shop is located at the Hallett Race Track near Tulsa, Oklahoma. They're a full-service SRF shop and authorized customer service rep for SCCA Enterprises and owners of the Hallett Racetrack. You can find more information at hallettracing.net. Saw a lot of drivers on the forums asking for that track recently. Would be very cool to see maybe them talk to the Hallett Racing folks. But before we get to that, let's talk about the championship that is on our hands. Daniel Sadro is ahead of Steve Elson thanks to the 2 drop points. You see Elson, of course, being able to get into the mix, even though he missed the first 3 races, Dimmel getting into the mix due to despite the first 3 races being missed. Down there, jumping up 5 points into 4th. Elson actually drops below Sadro this round. Just Sadro's consistency getting him up. Fitterer still in the mix, even though he's a Spec 2 driver. Jerry McAreevy drops down 1 to 5th within the top 5. The Spec 2 championship, as always, it's been a little bit predictable lately. Is it still the same way there, Adam?
Yeah, let's go ahead and pull that up, take a look at it, and yes, of course, as you'd expect, Fitterer running away with it. I mean, come on, showing up that high on the S1 board, yeah, he's running away with the S2 championship. But behind him, very interesting race going on for 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Very close battle, only separated by about 25 points between them, with Jim McGill in 2nd, Bob Kern swapping positions after last week, Jeff Jacobson, Christopher Patterson. And look at Christopher Patterson up 7 spots. You know what? And he's here today looking to maybe gain some more. One important thing that I'm looking at here, Joe, is Donald Federer kind of far down on the leaderboard here so far in practice and qualifying. So could be an interesting race in the point standings there.
Yeah, only sitting 12th, but we still got a little bit of qualifying left to go. See if he can improve on that. Now, today's race itself will include a 40-minute race. And we are in round 7. Now, they will have a expected pit stop for fuel because they've limited the fuel cells compared to the real ones. And they do have the same points from 1st to 3rd, but from there on down to last place, it will always be apportioned out to 25th or 25 points for last place. They get penalty points for every 10 incidents just to try and keep things clean out on track. And they have a fast repair in their pocket just in case they have a severe problem. That's actually helped given a win to Sven Dimmel at Lime Rock Park, where otherwise he would have been out of it for sure. Now, this race, of course, is brought to you by... brought to you on the iRacing Esports Network. Make sure and subscribe to IESN when you get the opportunity. You'll get all of the SRF Weekend Warriors in your YouTube feed. Looking at the qualifying, there's not too big of a shock. Sven Dimmel back up at the front. In fact, despite what the practice was implying, Adam, it seems like he's really found some pace on these single laps.
Yeah, he has. I mean, yeah, he led practice, of course, but he was only a 10th off Michael Shaw in qualifying here so far. I mean, he's 0.8 of a second ahead. So whether that was because maybe Michael Shaw got some drafting help, I don't know. But the bottom line is, though, is that Sven Dimmel definitely showing he's got pace here for today, and he's going to need it because it could be tricky out there here for today. I mean, we're talking about a really high track temperature. I mean, Joe, what we were talking about, the track temperature up 108, 110 degrees here today. And these little SRFs, man, they're going to be slip sliding all over the place, especially as once we get the tires, some age on the tires.
It's actually gone up since they advanced here to the qualifying session. It's now 114 degrees Fahrenheit.
That's not even right.
Incredibly, that's not the hottest we've seen yet on GSRC, but that is up there. It's a little bit windy as well, 13 miles per hour, but it doesn't look to be whipping around and changing direction too much. So hopefully that won't add to the difficulties. Real quick, the S2 pole sitter is Adam Bradshaw. He's been the main one competing with Fitterer for the top spot in that Spec 2, and he's looking pretty good today, at least based on qualifying. Still got 6.5 minutes left to go for Donald to try and get one in, as it looks like Bradshaw getting a little bit of tow from whoever that is ahead. Looks to be actually giving a little bit of a bump draft to Bob Kern, which hopefully doesn't give him a 0x, because that will disqualify your lap. Regardless, you talked about the draft at this track, and this isn't usually known as a draft track in other cars, but these SRFs tend to kind of throw some surprises at some of these circuits. Is there enough of a draft that somebody can get sneaky around here, or is it really not do much?
Only in a few places, but I mean, you got to think. One of the main places that you're going to be getting help is, between turns 5 and turn 6. You hit that kink there in turn 6. You go up the Ray Hall straightaway, and you're going uphill at that point. So if you're right behind somebody, they're helping take the air off your front end. Every little bit helps right there when you're going uphill. So that's going to be one place to look out for. And of course, the front straightaway, I think, is going to be one place too that we'll see some drafting assistance. But it's not a drafting track per se, but you also have a car that will only be doing about 120 miles an hour at times around here today.
Absolutely. We are looking at Daniel Sadro, our new points leader, who I mentioned is on 3 straight podiums. Now, his qualifying is looking a little bit down today. He's only 9th place, but he's only had 2 timed laps in, and he's coming across. Will this be a one that counts? It does, but it's still not faster. 39.7. The 51 car does not seem to agree with this track.
I can think of a few other cars that probably don't agree with this track here today, with the track temperature of 114, but you're starting to see it. I mean, handling, I think, is going to be a big thing, but one point that we haven't touched on so much here in the pre-race show, Joe, that I really think is going to be a problem is going to be traffic. I mean, especially for our leaders later on, we get past halfway, they might be starting to run in some of the back markers. I mean, we've got a full field here so far. Let's see, 29, 30, 32 cars set practice times. And once we start getting into it, I mean, ill-handling race cars on a slick race track, and you start mixing into the traffic, it could definitely make things interesting, maybe even around the time we start seeing pit stops.
Absolutely. And, I'm looking around on track, too. One of the things this circuit notorious for, both in real life and here in the sim, is look off. You can see it all around there. Look offline. There is dirt and dust all over. That's been kicked up during practice. That carries over into the race and here in qualifying, obviously. So anybody going offline is really going to have to be a little heads up, it looks like.
Yeah, and these cars definitely are going to be feeling that dust. I mean, you might think it's minor, but it'll make you slide, and that's going to be leading into a couple of the trouble spots of the track today. We talk about turn 6 already. Turn 6, that's one place that really likes to accumulate the dust on the first part of the turn, on the second part of the turn, in the middle. There's going to be dust all over the place over there. And the corkscrew is going to be another place that is famous for picking up dust because lots of people put wheels off right there. So those are going to be 2 areas in particular that I'm going to be watching here for today.
Steve Elson, who now finds himself second in the championship for the first time in a while, is sitting 8th. He's coming across the line, and it's a 44.6, so that was a slow lap for him. His fastest is a 39.2, about 1.2 seconds off of our provisional pole sitter, which is still Demel, and still, well, no, I say still, but I was interrupted because it's gone from 8/10 now to 6/10. Jerry McAreevy moves on to the front row.
And still needing to keep an eye on that S2 grid here so far. Adam Bradshaw still the provisional pole sitter there, but you got Ramon Regaldo and also Edward Doherty that is ahead of Donald Federer, and then Donald Federer has Christopher Patterson not too far behind him. So the S2 battle here today, I think, is going to be probably maybe one of the more interesting ones of the season here so far. Really looking forward to that battle within the race.
And make that no cars between Federer and Patterson. He just moves up with a 39.5 into 13th behind our S2 points leader. Certainly they have upped their game, and they could potentially reel Federer back in this week. Just a minute ago as we ride on board Regalado, sitting 10th overall and second in the Spec 2. His second lap was his fastest at a 39.4, and he's actually going to pull off before the line. Not sure why he did that. That will be his qualifying over.
Count or something. But, I mean, he won't be able to get another attempt in, so.
I would have thought he would want one more lap, since that would have been his last available time to run through. Dominic Bureau comes around from 14th. Let's see if the number 21 can improve. Nope, it is a 39.9, so it's 0.3 off his fastest lap so far. Can anybody catch Sven Demmel? McAreevy won't, because he's in the pits. Sven also in the pits, so he won't be able to improve from there. Shaw just heading out now, but it's way too late to get around in time to start a lap. Miroslav Juracek is currently our fastest car in qualifying that could potentially overtake him. He's coming through turn 5 right now, is the 84, so this is his last timed lap. Up and through turn 6, keeps it tidy through there. And being informed by the side of his car, as I remember we've been told before, it is Juracek, not Juracek.
I like that. We should make that a requirement.
Oh.
Everybody can put the pronunciation. Oh, there's that slip sliding away. Cue the music.
Yeah, the corkscrew claims another one, unfortunately.
You said chorus, don't lie. Yes, yeah, the chorus.
Well, I started saying carousel.
Slide away.
Yeah. I started saying carousel and then realized it's a different C-named corner. Dominique Bureau is going to be able to come through. Well, no, he's not, because he's coming into the pits. That is it for the number 21. And Ryan Sorrell is saying what's on everybody's mind in the chat. He just mentioned it is slick today. Thank you, Captain Obvious. So with drivers coming across, and in fact, I don't see anybody looking to complete a lap. Looks like a lot of drivers having problems. Mike Lucas is still out there. I see Daniel Sadro and Nico Shuk. I think they are the only ones. Lucas is going to be the first one, the Ohio driver, in the 235. Currently sitting in 21st position, and he's not going to be able to finish his lap either. And I think Sadra may have already crossed the line as well. And in fact, yep, he's coming into the pits, which would mean that Nico Shuk also won't be able to take a lap. So that's going to end our qualifying. And as Adam mentioned, it's a relatively large field here today. No surprise with this being base content here on iRacing. So everybody owns both this car and this track. Sven Demmel will be starting on the pole with Jerry McAreevy next to him. Michael Shaw will be starting in third with Miroslav Juracek in P4. Stevie Ray starts fifth with Jason Perry on the outside of row 3. Adam Bradshaw will be our pole sitter for the Spec 2 race in 7th overall. Steve Elson, 8th for him, and then Daniel Sadro could do no better than 9th. Ramon Regalado, 2nd in Spec 2, but will round out the top 10 of the field.
Yeah, and looking at 11th in row 6, we'll find Edward Doherty, and then alongside him will be Donna Federer. So we got two S2 drivers there making up row 6. Row 7 is going to go to Christopher Patterson, Dominique Moreau in 14th position. Bob Kern, Ryan Sorrell at 15th and 16th. Row 9 is going to go to Rick Hansen. I don't think I've seen Rick's name out here yet, at least this season. Of course, I've missed a race or two. Jim McGill out there in 18th. Row 10 is going to be Zachary LeVay. That's Sanume in 20th position. So, as mentioned, full field out there, Joe.
Yep, Mike Lucas will be next in 21st, flanked by Tom Bradwell in P22. Francois Van Dornveld will be starting 23rd with Jeff Jacobson, in 24th. Gary Wobolt starts P25, and then Andy Spicer in 26. Nico Shuk in 27th. Telmo Almiral and Edgar Sancinelli are the last two to get a time in 28th and 29th. Then you've got Ryan Walker out in 30th, Joe Aguilar in 31st, and John Nielsen 32nd. Might have to swap those. My iRacing seems to have moved them around according to the order that they're showing. And checking to see if we've got anybody. Telmo Almiral's not in the session, so not sure that he will be taking part. Looks like he is disconnected, maybe not happy with how the car is running, thinking it's better to stay off the grid today. So you see the cars all lining up behind the Porsche pace car. You know, you mentioned the phonetic spelling on the car. That's actually not the first time we've seen that. Martin Krejcik did that for us in the Camel series. Very kind of him. I'm with you. I think that's a cool idea. If they want the name pronounced right, just make it plain for us.
Still no guarantees I might actually see it, but I did see that one. So
put it where we put the cameras on the car, and likely at some point we'll come across it. We're going to take a rolling start here behind the pace car, then we'll go racing for 40 minutes today. I always like to bring it up at Laguna Seca because it's such unique both on the in and the out. Pit lane entry, pit lane exit. Adam, explain to our viewers how tricky these are.
Probably one of the more trickier ones in iRacing, especially on both ends of that, because pit entry is going to be, it's surrounded by dust and dirt. You're going to have, it's going to be slick. We've already talked about the track being slick. Well, pit entry is going to be even slicker because you don't run on it enough to really clear out the dirt. And then on, it also, it's real tight as well. And the same on pit exit. And pit exit is long. You're going to go all the way down through turn 1 until you are able to get back out on the track. And once again, it's tight, it's narrow, and then you get thrown right out into traffic potentially, especially here with the full field. I mean, traffic is going to play a big role here for today, and I'm really expecting maybe some fireworks on both pit entry and pit exit.
Yeah, we've seen our fair share of drivers, especially on pit entry, actually run into the wall because they blew the corner. So hopefully we won't have too many David Coulthards in the field today. They work their way up the hill, up the Ray Hall Straight towards the famous corkscrew. Gonna actually say the right corner name this time. And then plunging down the hill. Let's see if, have they slowed down the Porsche pace car this time, or is it still blast through there? Ooh, a Juracek actually going a little off course, outbreaking himself on the pace lap, and he's going to have to catch up to the front row. Thankfully, did not spin the car. So, as they come through turn 10, Porsche pace car peels off into pit lane, giving control to Sven Demmel. HJ Motorsports driver going to try and get a good launch off of the hairpin. Oh, he waits though. He checks him up. Green flag is now out, and the checkup thankfully didn't cause any issues. However, it did allow McAreevy to stay right with them. He's falling off slightly, starting to become 3 wide now for second place, as he's got Michael Shaw to the inside, to the outside. Juracek trying to outbrake him. Oh, and a big slide, as well as a car being turned around behind them. That is Elson. And was that Sadro that got into him?
And Donald Federer's involved. Elson's all tore up.
Now, thankfully, that was not, there weren't as many cars as I would have feared would be involved in the very first lap into the Andretti hairpin. A lot of heads up driving from the competitors around Elson. You could see that Sven Demmel continues on in first place. Michael Shaw giving chase now in second as he's overtaken McAreevy. Stevie Ray promoted up to fourth. Oh, and we have another incident, and it's Michael Shaw out of second place into the barrier. Turn 6 takes its first victim on the very first lap. It is treacherous.
Yeah, I just got in, the back end got happy, and just nowhere to go except the tire barrier there.
Got some replays. That promotes McAreevy to second and Ray to third. There is Michael Shaw just plowing into the barrier. Going to watch from on board. Was it the curb or what happened? Oh, just got loose. So we'll go back to the start, to the Andretti hairpin. Let's see who we're going to watch first, because there was 2 separate incidents. There's a spin from Elson, which really had the worst effect. So he comes into this double apexer. The rear just comes around. And I think, yeah, that was in fact Sadro that got him. Our points leader Oh, he had help. He got turned around. It was from onboard Elson, excuse me, looking back. So Elson can't really be blamed for that one. Oh, maybe it wasn't Sadro. Let's see. He's to the inside here. Oh, no, it was... Okay, so it was a different car. Sadro thankfully managed to avoid it, but that was our car second in the points. Elson, who unfortunately had a horrible start to the race. And Sven Demmel is suddenly down in 7th. What happened to Sven? I'm going back to check. Oh, he almost spun out of turn 5. We don't need to necessarily go to the replay here. Just lost the rear of the car. Got it pointed back forward in time, but it lost him a bunch of spots. And Jerry McAreevy is now up to the top. Steve Ray is in 2nd, and Juracek is in 3rd. Very topsy-turvy start to this race. Dominique Bureau and our Spec 2 points leader had a problem in the corkscrew. Turned it around all by himself. Donald Fitterer loops it on that steep downhill. Once again, maybe he was put off a little bit by the car off to the side. That's the 21. That would be, it looks like Dominique Bureau, who had his own separate incident. My goodness. Well, if we can come back to the top of the field, don't forget Jason Perry, who's climbed quite a bit with everybody else's troubles. Started 6th. He is now P4, giving chase on Juracek. And then our Spec 2 leader is up to 5th. It is Adam Bradshaw chasing Perry. Through turn 6. Hopefully no issues for the top. It's going to be a climb back once again for Sven Demmel. This is becoming a common recurrence for the Diatch driver. He had to make a comeback at Silverstone. He had to make a comeback at Lime Rock. And last race at Monza was about the only time he did not have to come through the field.
Ooh, looking at Stevie Ray running 2nd. He's going to run way wide through turn 10. He's going to end up having the likes of Juracek and Jason Perry now crawling back up underneath his rear wing.
And we were watching that from onboard Demmel, who did manage to get by Sadro up to P6. But still the battle rages on between Juracek and Stevie Ray down into the first corner, side by side. Little bobble. Oh, and that bobble actually checks up Juracek, who gets into Perry. Both of them sliding off course, losing multiple positions. Demmel has been given a gift. More spots going forward, already back to 4th. Watching from onboard Spider-Man. Definitely the innocent victim in this one. From onboard though, it looked a little different. Maybe he got into the 84 a little bit there. Stuck his nose in a little bit late though. I mean, there was a big checkup ahead of him that he probably wouldn't have anticipated. Whatever the case, it now puts puts Bradshaw up to P3, even though he's Spec 2. Sven Demmel up to 4th, and Sadro returns to the track in 6th. 5th, excuse me.
Lots of action here very early on in this race, Joe, and all our concerns about how it's slick out there and everything else coming to fruition in only a first few laps of this thing. Watching a few more cars running wide through turn 10. You need to start looking at turn 10 and see just how much dust is starting to get put down out there, especially on the exit of the corner with how many cars were running out and then coming back on.
Well, it's certainly not slowing down Demmel. We just watched him take 3rd now ahead of Bradshaw. And it looks like Sadro's going to try and follow him through, going the long way around. Doesn't quite work out. Let's hop on board Sadro and watch him chase down Bradshaw. and smooth right in the tire tracks of Bradshaw. He's watching the driver chasing him down in the points start to slip away, and though he takes a peek up into turn 6, Sadro thinks better of it. He definitely wants to try and keep touch with quick Sven. Stevie Ray is next on the list for the 22. Ray started this thing in 5th, up to 2nd place, but how long can he hold on to it? Dimmel sizing him up as he comes through turn 10. This is the one that Adam mentioned, getting a little bit slick. This is where he made the pass for 3rd last time through, and almost looks like Stevie Ray's pulling over and letting him through.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened there. He just kind of picked, went wide there just to let him. It was one of those ones that if he was going to try to hold up Sven Dimmel, it probably would have ended up costing more time. So probably better just to let him go from there and try to hold off Sadro and Bradshaw here the next few laps.
Behind them, you may notice that Daniel Sadro has gotten by Bradshaw now. That moves him up to 4th. Getting somewhat close to the pit window soon enough. Wonder if we'll see any early takers. Let's jump back to 11th. Bob Kern just ahead of Jim McGill, who's ahead of Hansen, Zach LeVay, and Tom Gradwell in a very close train. All of them taking turn 4 nice and clean. The one where it's easy to get a wheel off through there. And then through the uphill turn 5. And boy, Jim McGill got a fantastic run. In fact, he's feeling a little bit frisky here. He goes to the inside of Kern. Maybe not frisky enough. He backs out before 6. That's going to cause something of a checkup behind him. Hansen under attack from LeVay. But because of how difficult it is to pass, nobody's able to overtake. LeVay stays P15.
You have a couple of good passing opportunities coming up, but you got to be on the gas and able to take advantage of it. And I don't think anybody is here quite yet. I think they're going to run right in line. Even going through turn 11 here for a minute, I don't think anybody's going to be making a move just yet.
Yeah, it seems like most are just content. And they're starting to gain some more fans. Tom Gradwell at the back of it, Jeff Jacobson, and Gary Wohlbold. So it is now a 7-car group, all fighting for what is essentially 11th place. Kern, who we ride on, or excuse me, McGill, who we ride on board with, having to go at Kern. Down into the Andretti hairpin, doesn't go off, but clearly McGill's got a fast car and he's trying to do something with it.
It's almost at the point where, Bob Kern might have to make some sort of mistake for McGill not to have to force his way by, but he's going to get a good look here, see if he's able to do anything with it as they head into turn 5, and he is. McGill's going to be able to complete that pass, but it does slow up just a little bit on the exit of the corner, and that's going to jam him up behind him. That's going to give Rick Hansen a chance here to look on the inside of Kern as they go through turn 6. Be careful through here running too wide, and they are. Everybody gets through except who's that running wide? That's LeVay running wide there. So, but that's what McGill wanted to see in his rear view, see those guys dicing up, because he already pulled away quite a bit as he heads into the corkscrew.
Top Gradwell takes advantage of Rick Hansen. He tried to slot back in the line. He didn't mean to take it too wide, but suddenly there was LeVay. LeVay, of course, lost his momentum up the Rahal straight, and Jeff Jacobson sneaks by. I think he's going to try and get this back soon as he had the run off of Rainey. Can he get it off of 10 as well? Carry that speed. He's close, but a little bit of a defensive move from Jacobson. Says, no, you don't, not yet. At the top of the screen, Sven Dimmel doing everything he can to run down Jerry McAreevy. Last lap was the fastest lap of the race at a 1:37.9. Compare that to McAreevy running a 38.6. Sven is a-coming. Back here with Juracek, just ahead of our Spec 2 leader, Adam Bradshaw. They've got Daniel Sadro ahead of them in P4. So far, nothing exciting happening with this group, but the pressure is starting to build.
Just thinking that right now, these guys probably a little bit more content to run nose and tail, but you're right. Sadro definitely has his hands full with WeatherTech, and one little slip up, Adam Bradshaw will be right there. I've been watching Sven Demmel here the last little bit again, running in second, and finally, I think he's getting to the point where Jerry McAreevy is back in sight. And that last time around, Sven was a second faster than him, and see what he is here on this go round. So you can watch that gap between them start to close down.
Not the fastest lap.
Yeah, 38.4 for McAreevy compared to 37.9 for Sven. So that gap between the two is going to disappear here quick. Now, of course, here today, as you've already seen, catching him is going to be one thing, passing him is going to be a complete another. Stevie Ray is going to be an early taker on pit road.
No surprises there, as he almost always is the first in. Oh, and something's happened to Sadro at the Andretti hairpin. Driver error as the rear of the car loses grip. He actually bounded over that red apex curve pretty hard.
The car looks straight, but he definitely lost a few positions, and those few positions is really hard to give up here today.
Absolutely, that puts him P8 now. Now, Adam, make sure and get out your parka because the track has cooled down to an ice cold 104 degrees. So it's improving. I'm not sure if that's much consolation to the drivers.
Well, I mean, it's a lot better than 114.
This is true. This is true. Let's see Sadro stuck between Patterson and Sorrell. So he's got a little company now that he's fallen downwards. 25 minutes left to go on the clock. Almost to the halfway point already. And Demmel is now within a second of McAreevy. You pointed out when we saw that Stevie Ray pulled over and let him through, it seemed like a wise decision. What about McAreevy? I mean, he's the leader. Is it worth fighting?
Yes and no. I think if he has it, if Sven gets a really good run on him, just let him go. But I mean, make him have to still try to get around you. Make him get that good run. So I mean, we'll see what happens. But at this point, Jerry McAreevy, they have such a big gap right now between them and going back to WeatherTech and Bradshaw as we're watching Jeff Jacobson come down pit road. I don't think you really need to worry about him losing second or anything like that as long as he can run mistake-free. Jeff Jacobson actually went around there.
Yeah, can we get an onboard of this? Because he just about saved it about 5 times. Watch his hands here. He was trying to keep it going. Back and forth, and nope. There she goes. As others are trying to pit around the spinning car. And the lead has already changed hands. We got distracted. Oh, and you know what? That was helped along. Jerry McAreevy with an off at the corkscrew.
Yeah, he just got just enough of the dirt that, he did everything he could to keep the car out of the concrete.
He nearly got into the tires there. So
yeah.
He saved his bacon.
He did. That was actually a great piece of driving, recovering from that, but he does give up the lead, and unless something happens here with Sven, Sven's going to start running away with it. Now, we do think that lap traffic will play a role in that, but we're still a few minutes away from that.
Been corrected by our director, McAreevy saved his haggis. So they continue. Well, I believe he's Scottish, actually. So he wanted to make sure he wasn't Irish, and he screwed that up. But yes, he's Scottish. So anyways, Miroslav Juracek is now a whole 7 seconds behind those two. So it is still an incredible pace that the 67 has been running. Meanwhile, the 84 being liberal with the track limits.
Don't want to be liberal with the track limits here. Just saying.
Yeah, there's only a couple spots where you have any paved runoff of any sort. So
Juracek put a couple wheels off. He's not going to lose any time or really any spots, but that had to have got scary for him.
In fact, Bradshaw's not too far behind Juracek.
Now, Joe, I was looking because we were talking about the track temperature at the beginning of this being 114. It's already fallen off now 11 degrees. It's down to 103. So we all know a couple months ago with the new weather changes and the dynamic sky and everything else. Actually, I think it's been closer to a year ago now, hasn't it? The sun moves in the sky, and of course that's going to play a big role. Well, in this race, the time factor is actually 2 times. So even though we're only 20 minutes in this race, in the grand scheme of things, as far as how the sun's moving across the sky, it's been about 40 minutes. So we're already past peak heating of the day, so we should see that track temperature lower as we go the rest of the way.
And that was Patterson in turn 10. Looks like braking caught him out as he corrected a slide. You're going to see out of the rainy curve, he manages to get across the track and everything looks fine. And then as soon as he hits the binders, it gets away from him. 270 doesn't hit anything, but he's all the way down in 18th, and he's going to take this opportunity to take a pit.
Might as well limit the damage at this point.
Highest car who is stopped is still Stevie Ray. He's back up to 15th now. You see the number 11 just overtook Esanumi. We are exactly halfway. Getting awful close for 4th position. Adam Bradshaw and Edward Doherty are fighting. Actually, now they're side by side for the lead of Spec 2, and Doherty's going to take it up to the corkscrew. Nice move out of turn 6. Just got the better run off of it, took advantage, and said goodbye. Bradshaw gives chase.
Yeah, Bradshaw has enough momentum here. He might be able to come back on Doherty.
Down to the final corner. Neither of these drivers have yet pit. I almost wonder if it'd be advantageous for Bradshaw himself to come in and let Doherty stay out, try and get a gap on him, get some pace. Well, he's going to use the slipstream here over 1 down into Andretti, but not going to make an attempt. This is losing them touch with Juracek, who is on the overall podium just ahead.
But, we don't need to go to him, but Juracek knows it, and he's pushing that car hard. He's hitting those curbs. Hopefully he doesn't do anything here trying to get away from those guys.
I was going to say, this car usually doesn't like curbs, especially tall ones, so I'm not so sure about that decision to get aggressive on the red apex curves. Up the hill towards 6 one more time. This is where Bradshaw lost out. And though he's solidly through, Doherty also is, and looks like Adam's not going to get the opportunity to try and run him back. So when do we see our leaders come in? Still waiting on a number of them. We're still being led by Sven Demmel, who's stretched it out to about 4.3 seconds over McAreevy. Neither of them have come in. Neither is Juracek. And there we go. Bradshaw was listening to the broadcast, apparently. Down into pit lane. And let's put him ahead of Stevie Ray, because he was relatively close to Ray before his stop.
And Stevie's been in traffic a couple of times, so, there's a chance, but Stevie's also been able to run some pretty good lap times even still.
Bradshaw still stationary. Stevie Ray is coming up the front stretch, and there he goes. He's going to get him easily. So now, does Doherty respond? Now that he's lost his buddy. pit to cover him off or stay out, confident that you can make the pace needed. So Daniel Sadro's in a nice little fight with Ramon Regalado, who gets promoted to second in the Spec 2 race. Not sure that this is going to last too long, though, because off of turn 6 and up the Rahal straight, Sadro looking strong as they break for the corkscrew. Regalado breaks a little early and lets the number 51 by.
And that new car that Sadro got really helping him out. I mean, he's able to run 38-second lap times right now, which is pretty fast compared to everybody else around him. So good to see. Edward Doherty, though, coming down pit road now, and it looks like Regalado is going to follow him here.
Yeah, it looks like Doherty is heads up today. He saw his rival pit and decided might as well come in just to cover him off. Probably couldn't hurt regardless. Bradshaw's actually dealing with a little bit of traffic right now. Esanumi is in front of him. Could be slowing him up slightly and scupper his plans to try and leapfrog Doherty. Doherty's moving now. Just as we see Bradshaw come up the hill. It's going to be tight. Doherty's past the cones. Bradshaw side by side with Numi right now as they come down to the braking for the Andretti hairpin, and I think Doherty is going to stay ahead.
But man, he just gets dropped into a hornet's nest there. Bro almost gets in the back of him, was able to get off of it though.
Francois just ahead of him, Van Dornveld running in 11th, and this is allowing Bradshaw to start to catch them, but he's got to overtake Dominique Bureau. Doherty knows this. He ducks to the inside down into turn 5, makes short work of Van Dornveld. Oh, and 3 wide up to turn 6.
I don't know about this.
And Van Dornveld is the first to lift. The winner of that game of chicken is Dominique Bureau, who moves up to 12th. It's not over, though. Bradshaw uses the opportunity to launch off of turn 6. He's got the inside of the corkscrew. He's got the brakes into it. And finally, he is fully ahead of Dominique. Hot on the tails of the leader for the Spec 2. Ryan Sorrell also taking a stop. He's going to be easily overtaken by Stevie Ray, who remains our highest pitter. Ray is all the way up to 6th. He's waiting on Gradwell, Sadro, Juracek, McAreevy, and Dimmel to pit to find out where he settles out. You see our leader, the number 22, with 14 minutes left to go. His gap back to McAreevy continues to extend. It is up to 6 seconds, 6.1 to be more precise. So when do we see Sven come in for his stop? Not this time, apparently. McAreevy is going to come in. So that's our second place driver electing to take his stop. Juracek will stay out. Daniel Sadro will also stay out. And Ray is actually battling with Gradwell right now. Overtakes him down through the corkscrew. That promotes him up to 5th. Number 11 closing in back to finish another lap. Jerry McAreevy in the 67 is just taking off now with his pit so far down the pit lane. There's no chance for Stevie Ray to hope to catch up to him. Already accelerating away.
Yeah, McAreevy definitely having a good day out there so far, despite that one mistake coming out of the corkscrew. So no surprise that he is able to be able to get out ahead of Stevie Ray, and actually out ahead of Stevie Ray by a pretty good margin.
Yeah, it's looking like a whole 6.5 seconds between those two. Back to the number 22. Comes out of Rainy Curve. He's not been leading this race for every single lap, but certainly has been showing much better pace than anybody else out here. And Demmel is in. So, the number 22 heading down to the very first pit stall. He'll be joined by WeatherTech. I think we're at the end of the pit window. Nope, it looks like Sadro's going to be able to stay out one more time. Meanwhile, Sven is already done with his stop and out. Might as well call him the Demolition Man, because my goodness, he's destroyed everybody, every race he's shown up.
Yeah, and that's despite what happened at the start of the race, and he's already just setting the world on fire again.
So with LeVay coming in, the only drivers that have yet to take their stop are Sadro, Bureau, and Sancinelli, I see, who is farther down the order, down in 21st.
You had Edgar Sancinelli down there in 21st because there are no pace cars to flip here. Just saying. We know Edgar from the Absolute Beginners League, and in the All-Star race, there is a tradition of actually having a real pace car, and they like to have a little fun with it during times. So, but I've seen Sancinelli put a few number of quote-unquote pace cars on their lid before. It's fun to watch.
All right, so as Daniel Sadro leads at least one lap, that'll probably be the only one. And that's Sven that we actually see right behind him, yeah.
Down.
Barely led for a lap. Now Sadro finally takes his stop, and the Demolition Man returns up to the front for his reign. Bureau. Bradshaw. Bradshaw off at the corkscrew. He was chasing Edward Doherty, was right on his tail, and a driver mistake sent him around. I think he managed to stay off the wall, but just barely.
Yeah, he was able to. He just real lucky to be able to get away from that. It was almost the exact same thing that happened to McGreevy a little while ago, except Bradshaw ended up looping the car around where McGreevy just kind of ran it wide. Still, though, no damage to the car, though, so he's able to get going again, but that hurts. Lots of positions lost there.
As we come back live, pretty much everybody up at the top has pitted, so let's go through your top 10 real quick just to run you down what's happened in this race. Sven Demmel looks typical of his race with a gap of 17 seconds over McAreevy, but he actually almost spun his car out on one of the very first laps, had to come back from 7th place, eventually regained the lead. McAreevy back there in P2 has been running steady, at least, except for one small mistake through this part in the corkscrew, where he just had a scare close to the wall. He's followed by WeatherTech, who I believe has actually gained some ground. He is only 4 seconds back from McAreevy in P3. He's not alone, though. You can see there is the gray machine of Stevie Ray. The number 11, as usual, was the first to pit, but he started this race in 5th and is currently running in 4th, so that's at least a gain of 1 spot. Top 5 are rounded out by our points leader, Daniel Sadro, but his points lead is going to have a big chunk taken out of it today if things stay as they are, with Sadro running 5th. Adam?
Yeah, going back down to 6th position, you'll find Edward Doherty Edward out there, being able to take up a few spots from where he started this race, being able to put down some good lap times. Made a mistake or two, but he's being able to overcome that and still run in the top 10 here today. Ramon Regalado, he's out there in 7th. Another guy that's up a few positions where he started to see him lock up the brakes there going through Andretti. So, he's definitely trying to push it. He's trying to get up to Doherty right now. Adam Bradshaw, you just saw what happened to him. Well, where did he end up? Well, he ended up all the way back in 8th position after that spin coming out of the corkscrew. So, some ground to make up for the S2 driver. We'll see what happens as we go through the day. He's already been able to reclaim one spot, though, and that one spot belonged to Ryan Sorrell. Ryan right now running in 9th position. His SRF a little beat up, but it will be out there actually up 7 spots from where he started. To round out the top 10, another guy that's had an issue here today will be Rick Hansen. But another guy that's also trying to overcome it, and another guy that's up 7 spots from where he started. So we've seen a lot of up and down through the field here, Joe, as attrition's kind of taking its toll. The slick track is kind of taking its toll. It's been almost exactly like what we were thinking.
And the track has cooled down yet more. It is 98 degrees as we watch this fight between Fitterer and Jim McGill. Both are Spec 2 drivers, and Fitterer is going to see a lot of his points lead erode with Doherty, Regalado, Sorrell, and Hansen all ahead of him in that Spec 2 race. Riding on board, looking back at McGill coming out of the rainy curve. Not close enough quite here. Maybe getting himself a nice launch off of the final hairpin could offer something up. Tries to set himself up, maybe a little wider off the corner than we saw from Fitterer. That gets him a couple car lengths of a gap. Five and a half minutes left to go now. Most of the racing up front has been settled out. About the closest battle up there is for 3rd, but we'll go to that if it gets closer. In fact, actually, it was at half a second. Now it's gone down to 0.3 of a second. Juracek starting to feel a little bit of pressure from Stevie Ray.
Yeah, Stevie was able to, that one place I was talking about, using the draft and the uphill part there, and Stevie was really able to do that, get a couple of tenths on Juracek now, right underneath his, what do you call that? Rear wicker,
Spoiler?
rear wing, rear bumper. I don't know, what do you call it in the SRF? But either way, Stevie Ray is right there. Who was that off?
That was Walker.
Oh, that was Walker is off track there.
He's just a lap down, so he's going to get it back going. The UKNI driver returns to the circuit. Yes, Stevie Ray very much underneath the gearbox of Juracek as they come down to the first hairpin. Yeah, gearbox.
Gearbox, that's good. When I saw Walker spin off there for a second there, it looked like a blue and yellow car, and it kind of made my heart skip a beat. So, just saying.
McAreevy would have liked that for sure. As they come out of turn 3 up towards 4. Swift right-hander, sometimes underestimated by drivers, but both of them take it nice and tidy. Yeah, that gap is going up by leaps and bounds up at the front. It is 18 seconds now from first to second place. So this is really the best action we've got here on screen. Coming through turn 6 and flirting with disaster, Stevie Ray, 2 wheels off. Gotta be careful where you place the car.
There's still a good gap between them, but these guys want to be careful not to lose too much time with each other, because the last few laps they've really started making up some ground on Jerry McAreevy. Now, at this point in the race, something's going to happen to Jerry for them to truly catch him, but you want to leave that window open as a possibility.
And I think that's a very possible chance, because, I mean, you look at the number of mistakes drivers have made in these conditions today. Jerry McAreevy could yet still fall down, slip off the course, do something that gives Juracek hope. There we see the 67 working around the Andretti hairpin, followed now by Juracek and Ray. Not many closer battles farther down in the field as they come through towards turn 4. 2.5 minutes left to go. Are we going to get white flag next time by?
I'm just thinking that. I've got a close eye on Sven here. We'll see if he's able to get there in time to get the white flag.
Meanwhile, up the hill.
Real close.
Turn 6. This has sometimes been the place to be. And Juracek all the way off. Stevie Ray trying to carry the speed, but Miroslav kept his foot in it and still manages to hold him off.
Yeah, we're going to have 2 to go this time by as Sven is crossing the line now. There's still 1:50 left on the clock, so 2 to go.
This is really the place to watch. Down through turn 10. Juracek, is he going to stay defensive? No, he pulls over all the way to the racing line. Stevie Ray thinks about it, thinks better of it. Maybe he's setting himself up for the front stretch. He is well within the slipstream. Can the number 11 get this done before the clock runs out? Reels him in, down to the Andretti hairpin. This time a defensive move by Juracek. Not feeling totally safe up there in P3. This is the battle for the final spot on the podium. For those that aren't aware, both drivers pushing the limits of the track. The 84 kicking up dust. Stevie Ray just barely on the edge of the pavement. As they work back up the hill through 5. Last time we saw Miroslav go all the way off course at this corner. Has he got it better this time? Got it cleaner? It's looking much better.
And looking at Sven Demmel, rounding turn 10, rounding turn 11. He's going to be staring the white flag in the face here in a matter of seconds.
Final lap here at Laguna Seca, round 7 of the Weekend Warriors. Demmel
Juracek is off.
4 for 4.
There goes Stevie Ray, not quite able to get around him when he went off. I think they rubbed a little bit there going through turn 11. Going down the front straightaway, still side by side. Juracek, though, is going to have to slot in behind Stevie Ray as they're heading to turn 1.
Stevie onto the throttle quicker than Miroslav. He covers him off by keeping the middle of the track and better on the brakes down into this first hairpin. Juracek trying to challenge. Has to slot in back behind. Tense stuff between these drivers on the final lap. We ride on board with Miroslav looking ahead at the Texan. Is there anything he can do to try and take it away? As they come up the hill, I'll give a shout when Sven Demmel gets all the way to the end, and it looks like with 2 corners to go, Sven Demmel comes around to the final hairpin. 4 out of 4 for the DH driver. This HJ Motorsports competitor is just unstoppable, winning here today at Laguna Seca. McAreevy going to get an easy second here. Stevie Ray is still ahead of Juracek. Coming around, as long as they're smooth on the power, this one belongs to Stevie Ray, the number 11, going to round out your podium in California.
Next closest battle on the racetrack is going to be Donald Federer. He's going through the corkscrew, but he has got Jim McGill right behind him. Jim McGill was looking really strong earlier on. Kind of faded a little bit thanks to a mistake, but doesn't look like he is going to be able to get Donald Federer unless Federer makes his own mistake here as they start to head toward turn 11 in the final right up to the flag. McGill tries to get one last run and ends up having to get on the binders to keep out of the back of Federer. That's going to go to Federer in 11th, and John McGill in 12th. Dominique Barreau is going to get 13th. Another battle here coming up to the line is Jeff Jacobson. He's going to be able to pull off 14th over Bob Kern, who will come home in 15th.
And we only have 20 cars on the lead lap. I see that Gradwell had a bit of a close fight between Wobolt and Patterson, but otherwise LeVay and Van Dornveld are the last through. Let's watch the mistake that handed over third, just with the white flag in sight for poor Miroslav Juracek. You talked about how aggressive he got on those apex curbs, and it finally bit him. Great racing by Stevie. The outside of turn 11, mistake or not, that's not easy to do. It was almost fully passed. Then under Juracek tries to come back inside. Stevie just wasn't have anything to do with that. So that's gonna take us to a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back in a moment with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. And before that, you'll see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC, so stick around. Welcome back to WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. And Sven Demmel has just continued putting one over on the field, taking another victory 4 out of 4 races that he's attended, meaning he's going to continue to climb up that point sheet. Jerry McAreevy finishes second behind him. It was a valiant effort, and only really one big mistake that we saw from Jerry all day. Otherwise, pretty flawless for him for another podium. Stevie Ray as well, using that early pit stop to great effect to get a third. He did have to fight for it, though. Juracek, unfortunately, with a little mistake with 1 lap to go, found himself settling for P4. Daniel Sadro recovered to a 5th place, and then Edward Doherty finishes in 6th. Ramon Regalado, who was one of the drivers that got into a mess in the first braking zone at Andretti, got into the back of Elson. He finishes 7th. He apologized for that post-race. Adam Bradshaw, who narrowly escaped disaster in the corkscrew, finishes 8th. And then Ryan Sorrell from 16th to 9th. Quite a nice climb. He was followed through there by Rick Hansen, who ran from 17th to 10th. Adam?
Yeah, coming home in 11th position here today. Not used to seeing him this far down, but there he is nonetheless. Donald Federer in 11th position, Jim McGill in 12th, Dominic Barreau in 13th position, Jeff Jacobson 14th, Bob Kern coming home in 15th, Tom Gradwell 16th, Gary Woolbach 17th, Christopher Patterson, another guy we expected to be up there today, but ran into some problems along with Zachary Lafay. Both found themselves in problems, 18th and 19th, and Francois Van Dornveld in 20th.
Sanumi 21st with Michael Shaw, qualified 3rd, 2nd row, and in the end is 22nd. Just a couple mistakes on the first lap were very costly. Mike Lucas 23rd with Nico Schuk in 24th, and it's Ryan Walker P25. Edgar Sancinelli finishes 26th with Andy Spicer in 27th. John Nielsen P28, and it looks like our first DNF of the day at 12 laps down. Jason Perry, fortunately Spider-Man had to call it a day, 29th. Steve Elson as well, I mentioned his early problems. He's 30th. Telmo Almiral and Joe Aguilar, I believe, did not start. So with that, we have our winner ready to talk to us. Sven Dimmel takes yet another one. Sven, you had a little bit of a scare early on, though, coming out of turn 5. What happened?
Well, the track is really difficult in these cars. The tiniest of mistakes will could end your race and will send you in a spin. With all these like red bumps out there and the holes in the ground and the sand, you really can't afford to drop a wheel. And yeah, the track got really hot, way hotter than it was like in practice or at any point this week in the official series. And so there was a lot more understeer. I went a little wider than I wanted to and dropped right into a hole next to that curb and turn 5, I think it is. And yeah, it sent me around. I could barely keep it pointed somewhat in the right direction to keep going and get behind the lead pack. But yeah, it was pretty scary. Could have easily thrown the whole race away there.
Well, obviously, you then had to overtake a few cars to get back through. I mean, how do you go about that at a track like this? It's kind of known for being a little difficult to pass on.
I actually think in this car it's not that difficult to pass on as in like GT cars or something, where you can really like make your car really wide and defend the inside everywhere, and there's no way to go around. But in the SRF you have quite a few opportunities to pass. There's a lot of time to be gained to the kink. You can make a run up onto the corkscrew, even though that's quite dangerous to do. Turn 1 is obviously a really good spot. You can pass around the outside as well if the other guy defends hard. And I made most of my passes into the final turn because the penultimate corner is probably my best corner on this track, and I always gain a lot of time on the other people there. And yeah, I just get a good run there and break them into the final turn.
Well, I think we saw a few of those where we managed to get through at that corner. Congratulations on another victory. It is now 4 for 4. You have certainly impressed us.
Thanks. Yeah, and I really like Laguna Seca. I enjoyed driving here today, even though it was really difficult. And yeah, the next 3 weeks coming up are also really great with this car. So I'm looking forward to that.
All right. I'm sure the other drivers aren't, as Sven Dimmel shows them how it's done today, taking the win at Laguna Seca. Man, I'd hate to see what he can do on the tracks that he's good at. So up next, we have Jerry McAreevy talking to Adam.
Yeah, Jerry. Hey, find yourselves here again. Just a tough race out there, able to overcome it and finish where you started in second position. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about how your day went.
Hi there. It was quite a crazy start, really. After that, it was just trying to keep away from the pack. And I seen Sven having an accident, but I knew he'd be back up to join us shortly. It was quite an exciting race, but just try to stay safe in these conditions. It was quite difficult.
You bring up the conditions. We started this thing with 114 degrees Fahrenheit track temperature, and it fell off quite a bit. But with the dust accumulation on the track, did that kind of balance out the track cooling off as far as how slick it was as the race went along?
No, in fact, at the pit stop, I actually made a mistake and put on 2 new front tyres, so that made things even worse for the first couple of laps. It was just, like I say, any sort of mistake and your day was going to end very.
Yeah, I think that's how a lot of people feel about Laguna Seca. Not a lot of runoff right here. But hey, Jerry, great day. Great job on the second place finish and surviving the 40 minutes here at Laguna Seca. And hope to see you again on the podium next week at Phillips Island.
Thanks, guys. Catch you later.
That was Jerry McAreevy, second place. We also have third place with us, Stevie Ray, who I mentioned earlier had to fight for that. Tell us about that battle with WeatherTech at the end. If he hadn't have made that mistake, were you prepared to really send in a wild dive to take it away?
Yeah, hi guys. I don't know about that. We were really close to the same speed, and I kind of figured that was going to be about the only chance I'd get if I could pressure him a little bit into a mistake. And the way this track was today, I really rewarded just being smooth and consistent. And yeah, I don't think I would have put it in too deep to risk wrecking us. We both had a good finish going. So.
Earlier in the race, you had another run-in with WeatherTech when you were fighting him there at the start, coming through the Andretti hairpin. It seemed like your car got a little loose, and I don't know if you saw. Did you happen to go back and look at the replay and see the entanglement that caused?
Yeah, no, I kind of heard the aftermath, and I felt bad about that. I went defensive a little bit on WeatherTech, and then I got loose, and he got into me a little bit, I think maybe, or avoided, and then I know it ensued behind us, and it ended Jason's day, I guess, and I got to go back and look at that. I felt bad for that.
At least from my perspective, I think it'd be hard to fault any of you three for what happened there. But you've got Phillip Island next, and that's going to be a lot more draft heavy. So do you think you'll be able to use that to save a little fuel, be a little sneaky?
Yeah, that's a possibility. Like you guys know, I tend to like doing the early pit stops. A little bit of draft helps with that. So we'll see how it goes. That adds a little bit of technical with the draft. So it ought to be, it always is a fun track.
Absolutely. Puts on a good show, especially in the SRF. Again, congratulations on a podium here today from 5th to 3rd.
Thanks, guys.
That was Stevie Ray. One last one. Adam's going to be talking to our Spec 2 winner, Edward Doherty.
Yeah, Edward, hey, great day out there, able to overcome quite a bit that was going on. Very action-packed 40 minutes, and, well, in the process of it, you're able to gain 5 spots as the race went along. Tell us a little bit about it. Edward, you got us? Edward, I see you keying up, Edward. I don't hear anything coming out.
Well, looks like that's not going to work out talking to Edward. So we're going to bring in Donald Fitterer, and Adam's got a couple questions for our points leader in the Spec 2 championship.
Yeah. So, hey, Donald, not quite the day you were looking for out there, but it didn't seem like it started right when you guys rolled off the truck for practice. Laguna Seca just categorically it's just a tough track. What was it like out there this afternoon?
Well, the track temperature was over 100 degrees, so it was very slippery. And to be honest, I hadn't practiced with that sort of track temperature, so I wasn't really prepared for it.
Would you say that is partly what led to some of the chaos that we were seeing out there?
Perhaps. I just think that, at the beginning of a race, you just give a little bit more room because that sort of thing is going to happen. And unfortunately, somebody didn't, and there was contact. And then the person that was hit and spinning, tried to roll off the track to get out of everybody's way. And I made the wrong decision and was trying to get around him. And all of a sudden, there he was.
Well, despite that lap one turn one, turn two contact there, still able to recover though to an 11th place finish here for this afternoon. So not all bad. I mean, I think I saw you down in about 18th position, so you should still be okay in the S2 standings there, and even the S1 standings for that matter. And we head to Phillips Island next. Should be a lot cooler there. What are you thinking? You're going to have a good day there at Phillips Island?
Boy, I sure hope so, but no predictions this time. I said last week that I was pretty good at this track, and look what happened.
Hey, I understand. Hey, Donald, we'll look forward to seeing you next week, and we'll talk to you then.
Okay, cheers. Thanks very much.
Here we go. That is our points leader in the Spec 2 race, Donald Fitterer, and that's going to close us out for the day. So, of course, we want to thank our sponsor once again, Hallett Race Shop. Check them out at hallettracing.net when you get the opportunity. Also, a thanks to iRacing for putting us on the iRacing Esports Network. To get IESN races in your YouTube feed, all you got to do is click subscribe. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Adam, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check us out on social media. We're on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. As we mentioned, heading down to Australia, to Phillip Island. That'll be Sunday, May 5th at 3:45 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.